Hey folks, just want to tell you that I got a really nice email today from someone. I don't know if he wants me to name him or not, but it was a really nice complimentary email, and he sent it to me to my Evo Malaysia email, and all he did was he wanted to say thanks for producing these videos that I've been doing, and I was out of the blue. I've never met this person, and it just came out of nowhere. It was really brilliant. Now, in addition to that, all the comments and feedback that I've been getting on my videos, as you know, I try to get to every single one, but YouTube doesn't notify me on all of them. So I actually have to scroll through once in a while and see which ones I've missed. Like I said in my previous video, I actually missed one that was 4 months ago, and I only just replied it. So my apologies. I do try to get to all of them because I really like the interaction that we have. Somebody actually asked, am I getting extra money for all the comments I reply? I wish. No, I'm not. Thank you if you have been letting the ads run. I really appreciate that. As you know, I've monetized my YouTube. And so anyway, back to this email. It was just full of compliments, and I was really touched to get it. So you know who you are. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And it signed off by asking how I got into this game. Okay, it might appear that I've got the best job in the world, that, you know, I'm always out there testing new cars, flying here, flying there, leading a jet set life, lifestyles of the rich and famous, according to Robin Leach. Some of you are a bit too old to, too young. I'm too old. Some of you are a bit too young to know who Robin Leach is, but by all means, Google him and find out the series that he used to host called Lifestyles of the Rich and Shameless. Actually, it was famous, but you know, I changed it to Shameless. So anyway, to answer your question, I figured I'd do a video just for you because I really appreciate that email that you sent to me. It was totally out of the blue, totally unexpected, and really nice. You know, it's like, so thank you very much. Well, the story goes, and I'll try and wrap it up in 5 minutes or less. I came back from the States in 1989 after studying there and earning my degree in marketing and marketing management and business administration. And there were no jobs available in 1989. Yeah, it was a pretty bad time. And so finally found one at an advertising agency called Leo Burnett in 1989. And would you know it? My first client was actually Ford. At the time it was Amin Ford. Dato' Aisyah Ahmad was my client. She's now the president of MAA, Malaysian Automotive Association. But yeah, she was my client. She was the GM of Amin Ford at the time, and so I was servicing the Ford account. These were the days of the Telstars and the lasers, and yes, if you find a brochure of a TX3 or a laser hatchback or a laser sedan somewhere, that was my work. I was involved with that. And so anyway, after a while, it was also during this time we used to plan their launches and events and even their media drives. So it was around this time that I met the veterans of the Malaysian Motoring Journalism Association or Society or Club or cult. And these were the guys like the late Louis Chiang, the late Shariza Hussain. Oh, Shariza, I miss you, man. I miss you, Louis, too. Mel Lee, Chips Yap, really old guys. Not old, I mean, now maybe they're pretty old, but these were the veterans of the Malaysian motoring industry. Bendy Kuna, Balbir Jesse, who am I forgetting? I mean, so many guys. These are the fellas that actually helped me during my when I first started. So anyway, that's how I met them, and that's how I got to know about the industry and stuff like that. And I found that I interacted really well with them, and I also found later on that I enjoyed writing the press releases for the cars, the news blurbs that you know, no email, that we used to send out in hard copy or fax. Does anybody still have a fax machine? Yeah, we send it out by fax. And I found that I really liked writing about the cars, and of course to take the cars for photo shoots and stuff like that. You know, we didn't hire drivers; we drove the cars to the studios ourselves. And so yeah, I drove the Telstars and the lasers and the TX3s and all that. I was actually not directly, okay, because there was a lot that went out around it. I can't claim all the credit, but I was involved in the launching of the TX3 and the Telstars and stuff like that. And I also realized at the time that I really liked driving those cars, you know, and then after that writing about them. So I mean, put two and two together. It doesn't take a genius to figure out what was going to happen next. I decided to have a chat with the likes of Chips and Mel and those guys. And Chips actually had a position open for an associate editor at Highway Malaysia magazine. It no longer exists, but it was called Highway Malaysia magazine. And so I joined Chips, and I quit my job at the advertising agency, and I joined Chips. I actually took a pay cut for it, but I was really interested in the industry because I'd seen it from an advertising perspective, I'd seen it from a marketing perspective, from the client side, and so now I wanted to see it from a journalism perspective. I never had any experience in journalism. I had no experience in writing except for press releases. I guess that's where I cut my teeth. Who came up with that? Who came up with that expression, cutting your teeth? I mean, ouch. You wouldn't really want to cut your teeth now, would you? Anyway, so yeah, that's how it started. And I worked with Highway Malaysia magazine for a few years. And the next thing I know, one day we're at an event and we had just arrived. And this is how relaxed it used to be, not like now. I just got into my swim shorts and jumped into the pool. And the next thing I know, I was joined by Mel Lee, who was running Asian Auto magazine at the time. And we got to talking, and we really clicked. And the next thing I know, he offers me a job. So I talked to Chips, and Chips said, yeah, you should actually expand your horizons. Why not? And this is when my other veteran motoring journalist friend, who was working with Mel at the time, Lee Pang Seng, he decided to join Chips. So it was the swap of the century. I joined Mel joined, and Leaps joined Chips. So yeah, it was big news back then. I mean, really, it was big news back then. Basically, Mel and Chips traded in their respective writers for and swapped over. Yeah. So anyway, so I joined Mel, and that was all during print. We were using film in cameras. We were there was no Google, there was no internet, there was no Wikipedia. We had to do our own research. We had to generate stories from magazines, from overseas magazines, ask for the rights to maybe use the photos. Then we used to scan prints. This is how difficult it was. I would have to take a car. Oh, and by the way, my very first test car, I still remember it, was when I was still with Highway Malaysia magazine. I didn't get a test car for 6 months. Okay, here there are people joining car websites and getting keys to a test car the very next day. I mean, oh no. Back then we had to earn our stripes. We didn't get test cars straight away. And I do remember that for the first 6 months working for Highway Malaysia, I wrote stories for the magazine from press releases, whatever I could find, generating my own stories. And it was 6 months before I got my first test car, which was a red Jeep Cherokee 2.5. Back then it was under MBF Jeep. And and it was actually, I took a very nice photo of it. I can't remember where I took it though now. I think it was somewhere around Uluyam, back when we could actually get to the side of the river. Yeah, I think it was there. And basically it was the cover story for Highway Malaysia magazine way back in the early 90s. So if you ever stumble across an issue of Highway Malaysia magazine with a red Jeep Cherokee on its cover, that was my first test car. Yep. And so anyway, back to Asian Auto. I learned a lot at Asian Auto. I was there for quite a number of years. And then in an attempt to actually expand my horizons, I decided to join the client side. See, I was servicing a client, so now I wanted to feel what it was like to be a client. And it just so happened one day, Mel and I were returning a Volvo at then Federal Auto Cars. It wasn't Volvo Malaysia, it was called Federal Auto Cars. And on their internal notice board, there was a sign for PR manager requested, or looking for a PR manager. So, in passing, walking down the stairs, Mel saw that, pointed out to me, and he said to me when I was walking behind, I was always Mel's bodyguard, so I always walk behind 5 steps. He points at that sign and says, you'd be great for that job. And I looked at it, and I was like, pulled out my handphone camera, took a picture of it. No, my handphone did not have a camera back then. Memorized it, and decided to, maybe, why not? Yeah, try from the client side, see what it's like. So I called up Federal Auto Cars. It was then being run by a guy named Ian Cars, a Scotsman, really cool guy. And they put me through straight to Ian. And Ian and I started talking, and He said, "Hey, come in for an interview. Let's do this. Why not?" So I went in, and would you believe I got the job, like on the spot? So I became the youngest PR manager, 22 years old. I became the youngest PR manager I was 24 at the time, I think. Was I 22 or 24? Somewhere around there, early 20s. I became the youngest PR manager for Federal Auto Cars I'd ever seen, or Volvo Malaysia at the time when it was known as Federal Auto Cars I'd ever seen. And I did that for 2 years, just to gain the experience of what it's like. And it was actually really good, because then I was starting to see the motoring media from a client's perspective, and they had to see me as a client as well. So it was very weird. But it was fun. It was really good. I did that for a couple of years, but you know what? In the back of my mind, it's the Alfa Romeo syndrome. Once you own an Alfa Romeo, even though you've not had one for 10 years, you'll always still want an Alfa Romeo. Same thing. I still wanted to get back into writing. I still wanted to get back into motoring journalism. So that was it. I did this for 2 years, and then I was like, okay, maybe it's time to go back. So I quit my job at Volvo, and it was just the emergence of the internet slowly coming in at the time, I think. But I didn't join an online portal straight away. No, I went to try my hand at newspapers, and for a while I was with News Straits Times, Cars, Bikes and Trucks. NST-CBT really taught me something very, very valuable, that a deadline is called a deadline because if you miss it, you're dead. You know, it's not a fancy term or anything like that. It's nothing cute. And I think in this day and age, some people are forgetting and calling it a date line. It's not a date line. You're not going on a date. It's a deadline. And if you miss it, you're dead. Because in a newspaper, you know that saying, stop the press? Nobody stops the press. Okay? It's got to run. The paper.
1 kilometer, keep right.
Forgot I had Waze on. So yeah, nobody stops the press. No way. Unless it's like something crazy like war has broken out. Nobody stops the press. So if CBT, if those of us who are in charge of CBT missed our deadline, we're dead. CBT would have not come out, and
keep right.
That would have been suicide, absolutely suicide, because advertisers had paid for advertising space, and for it not to appear, you are liable. Okay, and we weren't making near enough to be liable for the kind of revenue that was coming in from ads for CBT. So yeah, we never missed a deadline ever. My old CBT guys, respect. So yeah, that job really did teach me a lot about responsibility, about deadlines. Yes, they are deadlines. Please stop calling them datelines, okay? And that was it. And then after that, it was asianauto.com. That's when I got immersed in the online part of the job. But it's not been online all the time since then. No. If you do remember, I was editor of Evo Malaysia magazine for 7 years. That was the longest gig. That was the longest job I've ever had in my life, actually. So there's a famous saying, Rolling Stones gather no moss. But I really didn't want to get mossy. Okay, who wants to get mossy? Okay, I wanted to experience, I wanted to learn, I wanted to see jobs and life from different perspectives, and that's why I did a lot of things. So, sorry, if you're if you're young and in the industry, don't tie yourself down to just one thing. Experience, go out there, find out what it's like I've been on 3 sides of the fence: media, client, PR. So, anyway. So I just thought oh my god, 5 minutes, it's 15 minutes. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm going to somewhere special now. I hope it doesn't rain because I really want to record this, and hopefully the weather holds. And in the meantime, you take care. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye bye.